Alright, everybody, what is going on? Welcome into another episode of the Full Press Saints podcast, of course, part of the Full Press Coverage Network. You guys can follow us on Twitter at SaintsFPC, of course. It is Alec today. Dayton is out doing Dayton things, but that is alright. We have to break down what I think was a football game Sunday. I'm not really too sure about that. And today we have a very special guest. He's a well-known face in Saints Twitter, doing hard work, doing things. I'll let him introduce himself. Take it away, good sir.
Yeah, what's going on, Alec? Glad you had me. It's Chris Rosvoglou from the Straight Up Saints podcast, guys. Obviously, if you guys saw me on Twitter the other day, it was a bunch of negative tweets. Well, that's not my fault. Blame your favorite team. But obviously, excited to talk Saints regardless of the result. They always keep us content-filled, I would say.
It's never a slow day for anybody, is it? We just can't have a normal day. So let's just talk right into this, Chris. I mean, this was a game all across the board, looked horrible. And Sean Payne said to himself, you could throw the excuses of, tons of the coaches are out because of COVID. You could throw out the excuses of the injuries. Sean Payne chose not to, saying that was definitely not what it was. But we all know. So before we dive into the specifics, what were just some of your general thoughts on this past game?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with this is, like you mentioned, the coaches, we knew they were going to be out. They were missing so much defensive talent, and yet it was the areas of the team where they weren't depleted or that depleted that they were just terrible. I mean, in terms of game planning, I guess it was a coach thing that caused the problem, but think about it. They had no run game. They had no real answer for the Panthers covering Kamara pretty well. The O-line was horrific. Jameis made some Jameis-esque mistakes, which you hope don't kind of happen more than a couple of times, later down this road. Mm-hmm. And a couple of guys who us Saints fans kind of expected to take a leap, Marquez Callaway, Adam Troutman, guys who we thought, hey, you know what, they didn't play well in week one, but they're going to rebound in week two. They didn't rebound in week two at all. So it's a really frustrating aspect. And funny thing is, I walked away from this game and thought, you know what, when this defense is at full strength, they're going to be a top 5 unit in the NFL. Like, that's how high I think of this defense, especially when I saw how well they played in the second half without Lattimore, without Davenport, without Gardner-Johnson, without so many big pieces, without Onyemata as well. So I was really encouraged with the defense, to be honest. Looking at the other side of the ball, though, my God, this offense is not good right now. And I think the 5-touchdown game was a little bit of an anomaly because of field position and just dominating time possession. So I think the Saints have a lot of issues to work out on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think everybody got the idea of Zach Bond. I think exposed is a nice way of putting it. Obviously, Matt Rule and Sam Darnold, when they look at the Saints defense, I think they picked out Zach Bond pretty early on that this is a guy we've got to target on. Whether it was a play-action rollout with Darnold, getting the receiver or the tight end coming across the field, or really anything they tried to throw at Zach Bond worked. We knew he was a project coming out of Wisconsin. He was a 3-4 edge guy who was making the switch to the 4-3 linebacker. Let me just ask you this. I know it's early in the year, and last year was kind of hard to consider anything because of COVID and no training camp and whatnot. Any concern for Zach Bond going forward, do you think? Is there a reason to panic right now, or do you think this will just take some time?
I don't want to say reason to panic yet for two reasons. One, he was going up against McCaffrey, and I feel like Quan really is the only linebacker the Saints have that can, stride for stride keep up with an athletic freak like McCaffrey. So I do think that the Saints, like, for example, the first big play he gave up, he was matched up one-on-one with McCaffrey on a wheel route. I don't know what they're expecting to happen there. I know that he played way worse than anyone could have expected. I actually thought Bond would play well yesterday. Obviously, that was one of the worst performances we've seen so far from the season, but I'm not ready to give up hope yet because I still think there's a role for him. I am a little, concerned because the things that I think Zach Bond's really good at, they haven't used him in that role yet. Like, I think Zach Bond's really good at going downhill, and frankly, he's more so going side to side right now instead of downhill, and that concerns me. But I'm not ready to give up yet because I thought he actually looked good in week one, and I thought he looked excellent in the preseason. So I kind of want to just recalibrate and kind of think about what he could be and project what he could be after maybe a couple more weeks because, like I said, he's going up against McCaffrey. There was no options really behind him, and again, we've seen so many Saints linebackers get burnt by McCaffrey, so this isn't something new for the Saints. So I am definitely concerned, but I'm not ready to slam the panic button yet.
You're a good man for that answer. I mean, all I think about is that playoff game where Craig Robinson just got absolutely switched. Well, McCaffrey just ran a simple stutter, option route. And this man Craig got. You're right, though. I mean, realistically speaking, Zach Bond on CMC. I mean, what else would we expect with that matchup? Anybody, even the best, have trouble with McCaffrey. The other thing I noticed that maybe the Saints, had trouble with, maybe not against Green Bay as much as Carolina, is Sam Darnold's underrated ability to move around the pocket and avoid pressure and get the throw off. I mean, we didn't see that with Aaron Rodgers a whole lot week one, but Carolina was good. Give them props for it's due. That was a good team. It's just switch to the offensive side of things, which you spent 3 whole episodes talking about that alone. I don't know where to. I'll let you take the first jab at this. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the play calling, the offensive line play, receiving play? Do you want to talk about Jameis first? Because there's 16 million. It's like Dr. Strange says. There's like 16 million scenarios we can go with here.
Oh, you're not wrong at all. Yeah, there's so many scenarios, but I'll go with the O-line because it's almost weird because we can't even say, oh, Eric McCoy was out. And yeah, they need Eric McCoy. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, they are better when Eric McCoy's in the lineup. He's one of the better centers in the league. But they didn't have him for most of the Green Bay game. Like, he got injured very early, and yet they manhandled Green Bay's defensive line. Yeah, they just manhandled that unit. And yet yesterday, they got pushed around. They look confused. Now, the confusion part could be both ways, and that's the concerning thing, because is it Ruiz isn't reading the field well as a center, or is it Jameis not reading the defense well? Whichever one it is, I think the more concerning one would be Jameis, because Ruiz, you probably kick him back to guard once McCoy's healthy. So the O-line is definitely a concern. Andrews Pete was getting pushed around, but I guess what's new at this point? So
Three-time Pro Bowler, Andrews Pete.
Unbelievable. And the funny thing is, everyone complains about the contract, and the contract is awful. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for the contract, but
we have this discussion every year, people.
100%. It's an evergreen topic. And the funny thing is, though, as bad as he is, he's like towards the top half of the league in offensive guards because offensive guard play is just so terrible right now for some weird reason. But no, he was getting pushed around. Brian Burns was having his way with Ramczyk, which you rarely see because that guy is just a baller. And the O-line was just terrible. And I thought the play calling, I mean, they didn't even think about running the football. I mean, Jameis Winston was their leading rusher. That should never happen, but yet it did. So there's so many problems. And I didn't even mention about, the wide receivers just not getting any separation. So like you said, there's so many complaints here. And while I was concerned with Jameis, he's very lucky because there were so many other problems that I'd maybe put him 4th or 5th on the worry scale.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about, with the pass protection and the pass blocking and whatnot, I think it's important to point out that, this is Jameis' first year as a full-time starter in New Orleans. We know when Breeze was here for as long as he was, he had, pre-audible snaps, things to get the line adjusted, recognize the blitz where it's coming from. And Jameis just really hasn't gotten to do that yet with this line. This is a very veteran offensive line. And I just feel like, give Jameis time to adjust with this group and to practice and whatnot. And I think you can see an improvement in the pass blocking game. But that still doesn't even begin to topple the fact that I don't know what Sean Payton was thinking in this game. He was in his bag the last game. There was no bag in this game. Everything fell through the bag. I just don't understand it. You look at Green Bay. The best way to beat the Packers is to keep Rodgers off the field. So you run the ball with Kamara, run the ball with Tony Jones, and you didn't see any of that this game. It was really bizarre. It just there's no words for it, really. Just I just don't know. And then the receivers, Troutman had a couple big missed blocks on the the play action. He's coming across the other side of the line. He's supposed to chip or just take whatever blitz to come off the edge. Didn't do it twice. Jameis got walloped. I mean, it was just a mess all around. And in all honesty, I know people were saying, "Oh, Jameis is back." I really didn't see a problem with the interceptions, just because I realized how desperate the Saints got at one point. One was before halftime, so I didn't even count that one because that's what happens before halftime. You have midfield, you take a shot, you see what happens. But like you said, Chris, I mean, I think the fact that the offensive line, which is probably our strongest unit on offense, struggled mightily. And then for me, Jameis was probably the fourth or fifth reason why this offense couldn't get it going today or yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say this: the day I'll panic about the Jameis thing is if everything else is going right and he's just god awful and throwing picks left and right. Then I think that would be the day that we're like, okay, it's same old Jameis. But the first time it happens, no O-line protection, no running game, wide receivers are just running in freaking quicksand all day. I just guess I'll give him the pass. To your point about Troutman, though, that might be the most disappointing, and I might have to go scrub some old tweets of me saying that he was going to play well this year because we're 0 for 2 right now on Troutman. He's not catching the ball. He's not blocking. Weirdly enough, those are two things he did very well in terms of he didn't drop his targets last year, and he was just an excellent blocker. If he can't block, then he's basically useless right now, which is really upsetting. So I hope and pray that like Troutman just somehow turns this around week 3 against New England. But I guess we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, he had the drops against the Packers, which you kind of overlooked that because of the win, right? And the big win by that. But, it's like when things go wrong, those things do get exposed, and people will point the finger. And I think that's exactly what this offense, that's what we're doing. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Players who we thought maybe weren't all that are getting trash on, I think, for the very, I guess, right reason and feel. Because, I mean, we talked about this before. When Michael Thomas' injury happened back in the summer, the Saints did or did not know about it, but they chose not to address the receiver position in the offseason, whether it was through the draft or free agency. Going forward, I mean, you got to realize this is going to be, I'll say it now, with Alvin Kamara, this is still the worst skill position group in the NFL among all 32 teams. Seriously.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's bad. You could take Callaway, you could take Little Jordan Humphrey, you could take Chris Hogan, put them on over half the NFL rosters right now. None of those guys make a team. That's just cut and dry like that. So, hey, the fact that they're all starting just gives me headaches nonetheless. But it's just a very bad game. But let's just quickly talk about the good. There were some good things nonetheless. That Peyton Turner looked impressive in his debut. Can you think of anything else to add on to that? Because I really genuinely am trying to think of another positive.
I'll throw one more in because the Peyton Turner one, absolutely. I actually tweeted at myself because I said he was performing, it was underwhelming in the first half, and then the second half was so amazing. I just quote tweeted myself and said, "Shut up, doofus," because he was so good.
You pulled the Ross Jackson.
He was so good in the second half, and that's really impressive, like you said. I say the other one, and again, it's actually two things. It's one, I think the Saints have one of the best safety duos in football. I thought Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins were very, very good yesterday. It's just you're not really going to talk about them because, hey, this team, with the way it went and Darnold had such a good first half, no one's going to mention it. But I thought Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins did a good job of eliminating big plays. Like a lot of the Panthers were about 15 to 18 yards over the field. And again, people are responsible for that, but that's not Marcus Williams' responsibility in terms of the 10 to 15 yard area. And Malcolm Jenkins, I thought, did another good job as well. And then the second one, I'd say Blake Gillikin, the punter. Yep. I think he's done really well this year. And it's bad when we got to start talking about the punter this early in the year, but he really has been great. And I'll just lump the whole Saints special teams in there because you had a Carl Granderson field goal block, and you also had good returns from Deontay Harris.
And once again, the Saints going to capitalize on said good field position. I think one more name I'll throw out there, if you will. I thought P.J. Williams actually looked pretty solid, considering the injuries at corner. I thought this man was going to get exposed. I was wrong. Not wrong, but he played a lot better than I thought. Of course, he had the big sack / strip. Did that count as an interception? Is that what that counted as?
It counted as a fumble, which was, I guess it's all the same at that point. If you're P.J. Williams, you get a sack and a fumble, so that's not bad.
Yeah, he had the pressure. Roby came in on this corner sack as well. Like we said, overall the defense played a lot better when you kind of take a step back and look at it. Nonetheless, the Saints do have to play at New England this week. We're gonna do a fuller, in-depth preview episode later this week, but Chris, since you're here, just get your little prediction, little itty bitty chit chat about it real quick. What are just some of your general thoughts on this Patriot team real quick, and how do you think the Saints match up, assuming that health-wise, we're going to stay the same from last week.
Yeah, I think the Saints match up pretty well. I think the one thing that would concern me is the tight ends of the Patriots. I think if the Saints can do a good job against them, I think they're really set because I think regardless if Lattimore plays or not, and I think he probably will, the Patriots don't have receivers that overwhelm you, so I think that's why you're seeing Mac Jones' stat lines. They don't really look juicy. Now, he's playing really good turnover-free football, but he's not going to wow you. I know the Saints don't do well against rookie quarterbacks, and that's going to be the fear for a lot of fans, but I actually do think they match up well with this Patriots team, and to just think about it, the Patriots won 25-6 this past Sunday against the Jets. Their defense had 4 interceptions. You'd think you'd probably score more than that, so I think offensively, the Saints don't have to worry about that side of the ball for the Patriots. Now, my concern is how does Jameis Winston play against a Bill Belichick defense that forces you into mistakes and does a really good job of that? J.C. Jackson, it seems like that guy gets a pick every single game, so that's going to be a name to watch if you're a Saints fan. And I think it's going to come down to that. I think this is going to be a slugfest. I think you're going to see like a 20-17 winner. I know people aren't going to be happy about the idea of the Saints going into Foxborough, but it wouldn't shock me if the Saints go in and win that game. I really don't think the Patriots are explosive enough to really just overwhelm the Saints. Like, I know the Panthers, I'm not saying the Panthers are a better team than the Patriots per se, but the Panthers have a little bit of an explosive nature to them with McCaffrey and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. The Patriots just don't have it. Like, Damian Harris is a good back, but other than that, they're not really going to wow you offensively. So I think this is going to be a slugfest again. Now, if Jameis Winston lights up a Belichick defense, I would be thrilled, but I'm probably looking at a 2017 ball game that's going to come down to field position and whose kicker is going to have a better day. Hopefully for the Saints, it's Aldrick Rosas who has the better day.
Love it, love it. And knowing our luck, this would be the game the Patriots figure it out, and, Mac Jones has the day. That would be our luck with the rookie. We're like the opposite of Belichick. When Belichick he's such an impressive record against rookie quarterbacks, the rookie quarterbacks always seem to light us up.
Which is still impressive, just on the wrong end of the spectrum.
If you're not a Saints fan, it's very impressive. You're like, damn, check that kid out. And we're just like, pain. But that's all the time we're going to have for today, guys. Later this week, we will drop a preview episode between the Saints and the Patriots. Chris, man, thank you so much for coming on, keeping it real with us. Go give him a follow, folks. He's great for that. He's a great Saints follow. Loves himself some Marvel and Office stuff, which I had nothing wrong with that. I love that stuff. You can't be all Saints, right? You got to mix it up.
No, that's how you keep your sanity. If it's all Saints, you're screwed.
You're going through it if you're all Saints. But that's wrap this up, guys. Appreciate you guys. Drop that review on iTunes. I'm sorry, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Good Lord, Spotify. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at SaintsFBC. This is us signing off. We'll see you guys next time.